Out there, legal warriors, will your job find out if you're charged with or convicted of a crime? That's a question I get a whole lot. So if you're interested in this area, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years. I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. I'm just going to jump right into it. I get this question all the time. Will my employer, will my job know that I got charged with the crime? And of course, I'm going to say it depends. But for the most part, what I've found in the 20 years of doing this on the defense side is the answer is no. It's not that likely they're going to find out. How do jobs typically find out? Well, as you might guess, the most normal way and the most common way they find out is there's some type of routine background check that happens. Maybe you've got a job that has a background check every year. Maybe you've got Uber or Lyft that do background checks quite often on their drivers. Maybe you have a visa, your H-1B, and your visa needs to get renewed. Will a background check show a pending criminal case or not? Again, it depends. Here's what I think of for rule of thumb. If the case involved an arrest with fingerprints, mugshot and fingerprints, then your state patrol official criminal history is going to show the charge. It's going to show the arrest. And if your employer uses the state patrol system where they pay individually for a background check to pull a record, it's going to show up there. If the case did not involve an arrest with mugshot and fingerprints, you've not been mugshotted and fingerprinted, you've not been booked in the case, and you're still not convicted, the case isn't charged or it's not over or there is no conviction, then the state patrol record most likely will not show anything. And that wouldn't show up on a state patrol background check. That doesn't mean you're out of the woods though, because many companies and employers will have a contract with some private vendor, with a for-profit business, right? Identity.com, backgroundcheck.com, there's a whole bunch of them out there. And those companies have their own ways of collecting court records, right? They're not going to the state patrol for your official history. They're going to unofficial non-criminal history sources and collecting data. And their data may show that you're dealing with this situation. And so your mileage may vary. Certainly if you have a conviction, it's probably going to show up somewhere. And if there's a background check, the employer would figure it out. If you're not convicted, and we have a pending or uncharged case, it depends on if there's an arrest and depends on who they use as background. What company. So if you had a situation where you just got a knock on the door and the police talk to you and you're not charged, you never got arrested, well then nothing's going to show that, right? There's these background companies are not able to just absorb all the police data and put it all into something, okay? Now, if you, got a knock on your door and you got arrested and not charged, well, then it may show up because when you're arrested, oftentimes a court record gets generated because the officer has to turn something into the jail. There has to be a court hearing about releasing you. There might be default bail set. So if you're confused or not sure about it, feel free to reach out to an attorney, whatever state you're in. I'm talking about Washington State, so they can figure out and let you know what your situation is. So the routine background check is one way employers find out. What might be another way? Well, if you had a very serious crime or a crime involving money, a felony, stuff like that, occasionally you might be required to tell your employer, but this is not the rule. Okay, you might be required as a condition of probation, something like that, by a probation officer to let your employer know something. Again, don't count on that. That's very limited circumstances. Another way an employer can find out about your situation would be that someone adverse to you, someone against you, tells them, right? The upset spouse, some competitors, some person you've wronged wants to let them know that, hey, did you know your employee was charged with this? They could find out that way. They can find out by a press article. Now, if you get arrested, there's not a lot of press, right? You know, the smaller towns, yes, right? So there's exception to every rule, but typically they're not going to find out that way, but they could, right? And one way that we can see it happen sometimes is if you miss work and someone calls in to say why you're missing work because you're in jail, and they say you're in jail, and now the employer finds out. So, but when most people are asking, will my employer find out? They're worried about a background check. Will it show up? And again, that depends on, is there an arrest? Are there fingerprints? And also, if there's a court hearing with no arrest or fingerprints, if you get charged by the mail and you're not arrested, well, a private company may eventually catch up to that. And if they're using a private company, it may show you're there. What do you do? The employer's giving you a hard time. Hey, we're going to let you go because of this. Well, ask for the record. Ask for the record. And if they won't give you the record, find out who they're using so you can run your own background check through that company to see if it's accurate. Once in a while, we do run into things, into cases where whatever background check company is being used by an employer or by some other type of situation, VRBO, who knows, they get a record that's reporting something entirely erroneously. And then usually for those companies, there's a system you can go through to try to get that record corrected. It's not going to be easy, it's going to be frustrating, but it can be done in cases that I have seen. I'm not saying it can't be done in yours, but hopefully it can. So again, just think about these things. Realize that just because you get charged with a crime doesn't necessarily disqualify you from many, many jobs. Certain jobs it can. I've seen it happen. And so you want to do everything you can to keep it as quiet as you can and get through things without a conviction or without an arrest record. If you can avoid a conviction and an arrest record, usually you're going to be okay. So if you found this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you got a crime, need some help with it, you're in Washington State, feel free to give my office a call. We'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.